Okay, let's dive in. We're tackling the big one today, the systematic review for your Stanford residency final project. Our goal here is to take the official guidelines, plus insights from experts like Muka and Furlan, and really map out this 11-month journey for you, starting October 2025.
Exactly. And it's crucial to understand this isn't just any project. The systematic review is, well, it's often called the highest level of scientific evidence. So the expectation isn't just ticking a box. It's about producing genuinely publishable research. We're talking a solid 10 to 20-page manuscript plus a pretty detailed 30 to 40-minute presentation.
Right, moving from just consuming evidence to actually producing it. And
And
the key, as the guidelines stress, is clinical relevance, especially for ortho-PT practice. That's where PCOPE comes in.
yes, PCOPE. Think of it as your compass. Population, comparison or control, outcome, and exposure or intervention. Your entire project hinges on defining your question using this structure. If you can't clearly articulate your PCOPE, your search strategy, and who you include or exclude, well, it's going to get messy fast.
Oh, makes sense. So 11 months, October 25 to August 26, broken down into 5 phases. Let's start at the beginning. Phase 1, building the foundation. This runs October to early January 26.
Phase 1 is all about getting your toolkit ready before you even seriously start searching. You wouldn't build a house without tools, right? Same idea here. Foundational skills first.
Okay, and the guidelines are specific. 4 mandatory library courses by January. First up, Zotero Basics. I assume that's for reference management?
Absolutely. Automating your references with Zotero, it's a game changer, seriously. It saves so much headache later on. It's fundamental.
Then Covidence, you mentioned that's the platform for managing the review itself.
Yes, Covidence is non-negotiable. Systematic reviews can pull in hundreds, sometimes thousands of potential articles. Covidence helps you manage that flood deduplication, screening. It keeps the process organized.
Got it. And the other 2 courses are Advanced Search Training, PubMed Pro, and Multi-Database Training covering Embase, CineHL, Sports Discus.
Right. And this isn't just about learning where to click. It's about becoming an independent searcher, knowing how to build a really effective search strategy across different platforms.
Okay, one more thing in Phase 1, setting up a MyNCBI account.
Crucial. This lets you set up automated alerts for new publications on your topic, so you stay current without having to constantly rerun searches manually. It's how researchers keep their finger on the pulse.
So by January 5th, the deliverable is 3 to 5 potential research topics. That leads directly into Phase 2, question refinement, running from Jan 5th to Feb 2nd.
Phase 2 is protocol time, and honestly, this might be the single most important document you write. Your protocol is your detailed plan. It lays out your methods before you start. This guarantees transparency, rigor, and it really minimizes the risk of you consciously or unconsciously biasing your review later.
And this loops back directly to PCOPE, defining that question precisely. The resources mention the risk of going too broad or too narrow. How do you find that sweet spot?
You test it, basically. Writing the protocol forces you to define exactly what you mean by your population, intervention, etc., what age range, what dose of exercise. Then you run some quick preliminary searches. If you get, say, 5,000 hits immediately, your question's likely too broad. Need to narrow the P or the O if you get 5 hits. Maybe broaden the E, it's iterative.
So that refined, tested question is what gets submitted and presented to the residency committee by February 2nd. That's the big check-in.
That's the one. They validate that your topic is solid, relevant, and importantly, actually doable within the 11-month time frame.
And you mentioned something about pre-registration, like Prospero.
Yes, prospective registration. So platforms like Prospero let you publicly log your protocol before you start collecting data. It's not mandatory for the residency project itself, but if you're aiming to publish, highly recommended. It's public proof that you stuck to your original plan and didn't, tweak your methods based on the results you started seeing. It boosts credibility.
Okay, so Phase 2 nails down the question and the plan. Phase 3 then, from February to late April, is about executing that search plan, collecting and filtering search results.
Exactly. And the core principle here is comprehensiveness. If your search misses important studies, your review's conclusions are inherently biased. This means using multiple databases, definitely Medline, PubMed, Central, Embase, but also subject-specific ones critical for PT, like CineHL, Sports Discus, Pedro, and definitely consult with a librarian. They're experts at this.
And the technique isn't just keywords, right? You mentioned Boolean operators, but also controlled vocabulary, Mayedge terms.
Right. Using controlled vocabulary like Mesh and PubMed or MTree and Embase is key. These are standardized terms. So searching for the Meshish term for, say, Hankel sprains will find articles indexed under that concept. Even if they use different keywords like lateral ligament injury or talofibular tear, it increases your search's sensitivity and precision.
And when you do this comprehensive search, brace yourself for volume. The guides say expect several hundred to thousands of initial hits.
Oh, absolutely. That's normal. And it's precisely why you need a structured filtering process and why Covidence is so helpful.
So filtering happens in two steps. Title and abstract first, then full text.
Correct. After Covidence helps deduplicate the results, you do a first-pass screening just the titles and abstracts against your exclusion criteria. Fast-paced, high volume. Then, for everything that looks potentially relevant, you retrieve the full text article and do a much more detailed read-through to make the final inclusion decision.
And tied to this filtering is the review matrix, with an initial draft due March 16th. What exactly is that matrix?
Think of it as your central command spreadsheet. For every single article you screen, especially those you consider in full text, you log key details. Author, year, maybe the study purpose, eligibility decision, notes. It tracks your work, yes, but critically, it becomes the raw material for the characteristics of included studies. Table 1 in your final manuscript. A messy matrix means a painful Table 1 write-up.
Got it. So that leads us into the really intensive phase 4, data extraction and quality appraisal. This runs from late April to late June.
Yep, things definitely ramp up here. The first big deliverable is the Prisma flow diagram, due May 11th. Prisma is the reporting standard. The flow diagram is a visual map showing the journey of your articles. How many you found initially, how many duplicates removed, how many excluded at each screening stage, and finally, how many studies made it into your review, usually around 10 to 25.
And this phase is also where quality assessment comes in the risk of bias, or ROB. How critical is this?
It's absolutely fundamental. You can't just summarize studies. You have to evaluate their trustworthiness. If the studies you include are methodologically weak or biased, your synthesis based on them will also be weak. The tool you use depends on the study designs in your review. For randomized controlled trials, it's the Cochrane ROB2 tool. For non-randomized intervention studies, it's Robbins I. For observational studies like cohorts or case controls, you'll likely use the Newcastle-Ottawa scale.
And the guidelines mention dual independent review for this. And for screening, too.
Yes. For publishable quality, best practice is having two people independently screen titles abstracts, screen full texts, assess risk of bias, and extract data. You can partner up with a fellow resident, or maybe a DPT connection. If you two disagree on whether to include a study or on its bias rating, that's where Michael or Gretchen step in as the third-party arbitrator to make the final call.
So that dual review adds another layer of rigor. What about the data extraction itself? Drafts due in May and June.
Data extraction is where you systematically pull out the specific pieces of information you need from each included study. What were the participant details? What exactly was the intervention? What outcomes were measured, and what were the results? The key here is using a standardized template that you design based directly on your PCOPE question. Consistency is vital.
The sources flag March and April as a potential stress point. Is that because filtering, ROB, and starting extraction all hit at once?
That's usually it. It's a convergence of high-volume, detailed work, filtering thousands down to dozens, then carefully appraising each one, then starting to pull out detailed data. It's a bottleneck. The best way to manage that stress, plan ahead, especially that data extraction template. Think really carefully about what data you need before you start extracting. It saves enormous time compared to realizing halfway through you missed something crucial.
Okay, makes sense. So surviving phase 4 brings us to the finish line. Phase 5, writing the paper and the final presentation, June through early September 2026.
Right, the final push. Two main products here. First, the manuscript itself, 10-20 pages, APA format. And you absolutely must use the Prisma checklist as you write. It ensures you've reported all the essential elements of your review's methodology and findings transparently. Using tools like Grammarly is also a good idea to polish the writing. Rough draft due July 20th.
And the second deliverable is the presentation.
Yep. A 30 to 40-minute presentation summarizing everything, your question, methods, findings, conclusions, followed by a pretty rigorous 20-minute Q&A session with faculty. Final presentation dates are set for August 26th and September 2nd, 2026.
What about sharing the work beyond the residency? Conference abstracts.
Definitely encouraged if you're motivated. Abstract deadlines for major conferences like CPTA or the National CSM meeting often fall around May, June, maybe July. And the good news is you can usually submit based on preliminary results. You don't need the final polished manuscript done to get your work out there via an abstract.
So after all that work, the final manuscript and presentation should really synthesize everything, compare the studies, discuss their quality based on the raw, and offer clear, clinically relevant takeaways.
Exactly. The conclusion should directly translate into recommendations for evidence-based practice. And it should also point out gaps, what don't we know yet, what future research is needed based on your findings.
Okay, let's try to boil down the absolute must-dos. Key takeaways. 1. Nail down that PCOPE question, build a solid protocol, and seriously consider registering it if publishing is a goal.
2. Cast a wide systematic net using multiple databases and advanced search techniques like MeSH. Don't skimp on the search.
And 3. Rigor in the execution. Dual, independent review for screening, data extraction, and risk of bias assessment using the right tools. That's non-negotiable for high-quality work.
Right. And that brings up a final thought, really a point about scientific integrity. Remember, a systematic review is a research method, just like a lab experiment. Its validity depends entirely on sticking to the predefined protocol you developed back in Funding 2. So here's something to consider as you go through this. Imagine you're deep into data extraction and the results aren't quite matching your initial hypothesis or what you hope to find. What are the ethical implications if you feel tempted to go back and just slightly tweak your inclusion criteria, maybe how you assessed bias, to nudge the results in a certain direction? Resisting that temptation, sticking to your protocol even when the results are inconvenient, that is the core of methodological integrity. Keep that front of mind throughout this whole process.